Welcome to the Pulse of Jonesboro. I am Jeremy Terrell, and I am your host. And today we're going to talk a little bit about a few things that have been on my mind here in the last 2 months. And that is how do we do better in coming together within our city? How do we do a better job of everybody's voices being heard? And how do we see that everybody within the community is being, so to speak, taken care of? And I don't know if that's the appropriate word or the right word, but definitely being represented. I went to City Council Finance meeting this week, and it was interesting. It was on the audit of the parks, and there's a lot of holes there. And so anyways, I got up and I spoke, and I think the majority of everybody is in the agreement that something needs to be done differently. So I stood up to talk about it, and I just want people to understand it's a difficult thing to get up in front of people, and especially those that are involved in whatever it is that you may be saying in disagreement to, and give your opinion on how you believe that whatever's going on within the city or whatever is not what should be going on, and in a way that is representing everybody. It's difficult, and so not a lot of people get up and do it. And then when that happens and you give your opinion, then you kind of get, jumped back on. And that's, in my opinion, that's not correct. It's not the way that should happen. What should happen is if you're a concerned citizen and you get up and voice your opinion, that opinion needs to be at least felt like, thank you very much, I appreciate you coming up and giving your opinion as a concerned citizen that is our boss. That's the way that I believe that should be going on. So that's one reason or way that we could start to maybe do things a little bit different and make sure that it's way easier to get up as a concerned citizen and give your opinion without the back and forth in a way that is at least understanding. And that doesn't happen every time. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times people get up and talk, and it's great, but I'm sure a lot of people don't get up because, again, it is incredibly difficult. You're on the spotlight, and most people don't want to say things that are controversial, and it just needs to be made sure that we do it in a manner that is opening for citizens to give their opinion. Now, if they're going irate or whatever, that's totally different. But if they're up there and they're giving their opinion, and maybe even some things that they know, it needs to be taken in a manner that is more constructive than combative. So there is that. I also went last week to a Garrett Barnes, one of the JPs, had a community conversation, and a couple of the city council were present as well, and it was very constructive. And there was several people there that were from every walk of life and represented probably every side of the political spectrum. And it was cordial and it was good, and there was some conversation and some great questions and some comments, and it was really back and forth and non-combative at all. And it was great. And again, some other city councilmen did the same thing a month or two ago, and I believe that needs to happen more. What Garrett did, and then what David McLean and one of the Dr. Colemans did, I think needs to be done way, way more. That was engaging in the community and talking about the issues that the citizens want to talk about. Now, then what needs to happen is that they need to take that back and to the, whether it's the city council or whether it's the county court, and talk about what the citizens are talking about, and then how in the world do we get represented. That's what's supposed to happen. And what happens currently right now is that for the majority, and it's not the 100% case, I would say it's probably the 75%, maybe 85% case, is things are brought by those that are in charge to the table, and the council or the JPs vote on it. And again, that's a hard position too. That's a hard position to be the one or two or three that don't always go rubber stamp things. You guys have heard me say on a previous episode talking about how Dr. Anthony Coleman asked a couple questions about why we spending so much on the busing situation if we can't pay for it, if it's in the negative all the time. And at some point in time, is there something we can do to where it actually at least breaks even? And you would have thought that he was talking about killing kittens or something. A lot of people came after him, and even people on the board. What's crazy to me is that's a legitimate question. It's so legitimate that we bought these trolley-like buses several months ago, and I would be surprised if they are ready to go on the road by winter. And that's just a waste of our money, total waste of our money. So we buy buses that we don't need, because this last, I think a week or two ago, it was brought up that we have plenty of buses to make all the routes, and so it's not that big of a deal that they're not in circulation yet. Then why did we buy them? Because they're cute? That's yours and my money. And why is it so difficult to be represented? So Dr. Coleman asks a great question, and then he gets berated. I go and ask some tough questions, and then I get labeled that I'm attacking them. And if you think I'm attacking you, like I'm asking you, the people that are supposedly in charge, the question, like why? I just don't see how we're going to move forward if the greatest concern is not you and me. The agenda of the mayor, I just saw a thing that came out, a little blip that they put on social media, and he's talking about connectivity and look what we've done with the sidewalks. And there's some truth to that. And then there's a lot of fluff. That's a PR stunt that was done, and I get it. That's what they do. I just wish it was more genuine, and it would have been more of, hey, look what we're doing, and show what we're doing where it is actually progressing across all of the city and representing all of the city. So again, everything flows downtown for this administration. Everything. These sidewalks all lead to downtown. They're not great sidewalks, and we're branching out from the schools or doing massive sidewalk improvement on the north side of town where the majority of the people are walking, and bus stops don't have covered places to sit, and they don't even have benches waiting for the bus. A lady was telling me about a story the other day where she drove by at one of the bus stops, and probably a 75-year-old woman is literally standing in the rain waiting for the bus, and there's no cover, there's nothing for her to sit and or get out of the rain. And they've been talking about this for years, busing and things like that. What's crazy is they get asked this question, and their response is, we've hired a group to tell us what to do. I don't even understand that. Or we got to make sure that we're following all the codes. Like, you can't read the codes and give it to a construction company and they know what the codes are? Like, are you serious? We just tore down a building that the codes involved in tearing down that building and where it was located are way more stringent than putting up a covered 3-wall and a bench with a ceiling. I promise you, way more. And they can read that. And I'm sick of the excuses. And we've got $9 million plus in our road situation, and we are not doing any roads. We haven't done any roads this year. We've got a pothole crew, and they're doing everything they can do, but like they can only do so much. But they post something, the city posts something about the sidewalks or whatever, and I would say 60% or even greater of the responses are, can you please fix our roads? Go look. on the social media. Anytime they say something about sidewalks or growth or any of that, the comments are just full of, can you please fix our roads? And they're correct. I posted a picture not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, of a neighborhood that I used to live in, and it's gravel. It's not supposed to be. It was paved several years ago and has not had any maintenance. None. I just saw that somebody posted about Broadmoor and all the branches off of Broadmoor. It says they haven't been touched in the entire time that they've lived there. And I don't remember what they said or how long that's been. You drive up and down, go look. You tell me one road right now that you could say is in perfect condition. And if it is, it's something that they've paved 2 or 3 times over the last 5 years, 2 or 3 times over the last 5 or 6 years. So they don't feel that they're getting represented there either. And they feel like they're getting an agenda shoved down their throat. And the agenda is a connected city because somebody read it somewhere that if you do this connected city, or it comes with a lot of grant money, which we chase grant money after grant money. Some of the city councilmen are constantly asking questions about, we keep doing this, do we have the ability to maintain it, and the extra cost that comes from that. And of course there's never a legitimate answer. That's problematic in itself, and the roads are case in point. What are we doing? We can't even keep up with stuff. There's areas that aren't getting mowed correctly, and the lines up and down downtown and other places haven't been painted in years and looks horrible. And my wife and I, we went on a little trip last weekend for the 4th of July. We went on a 5-day little trip, and we went to some different cities, and just the difference in cleanliness and the difference in like the paving lines and some of the things that they're offering. And they don't have a whole lot more than what we do, but they're just using it way more wisely. We'll put up some of the pictures of that too here over the next couple of weeks. But so what do we do? What do we do, and how do we fix this? One of the things is what we're doing now. We're getting things out into the open and into the public and trying to really push the needle in a way that you and I are always represented. That's the things when city council has a meeting, that their first and foremost thing in their head should be, how is this representing the people, and is it representing the people in a manner that we would all be pleased with? That should be the motto going into every meeting. We should make it easier for people to be involved, and they do some of that. As far as the access, it's pretty easy. But like I said, if you stand up and give comment to the opposition, a lot of people feel like it comes on deaf ears, 1, and 2, sometimes you get in a back and forth, hey, my feelings are hurt situation. And I don't know how sometimes when you go up and talk about tough things, how people's feelings don't get hurt. But again, they're representing you and me and supposed to be making sure that they're doing what's best for you and me. And I just feel like sometimes that just gets lost. And if you don't revisit those things as a city and as a council and as other things, if you're not constantly talking about that or reassuring that or making sure that everybody's understanding of those principles, it gets lost. And it's nothing against them. It just is human nature, and it gets lost. So what do we do, and how do we change this? How do we make sure that we're doing things that draw everybody in? I've talked about it, I can't tell you how many times. And that is that we spend the same amount of effort and time in every area of Jonesboro. We don't just completely 100% focus on one area or one driving force of all I think that the city's doing is connectivity stuff. That's it. The agenda over the last several times is absolutely 100% consumed by putting up sidewalks. It is. Go back and watch them. There's a few things thrown in there, but for the majority of it, it's sidewalks. And I've asked a couple questions to a couple of city councilmen is what projects are we doing right now? Name me a project that we're doing other than a sidewalk that is benefiting Jonesboro, and they can't name me one. They can't. That the city's doing. They can't name me one. That's a problem. That's a big problem. I started this podcast because, one, I want to push the issues and I want your voice to be heard. And two is to figure out how to build bridges. But it's real difficult. It's real difficult when it feels like it's just an agenda-driven process and not something that is about me and you. So it's really hard. I feel like I come on here each and every week and just talk about all the bad things. And there's great things about Jonesboro. There's great things about Jonesboro. We've got great policemen and great firefighters, and we've got great business leaders and great organizations that make a lot of money to give away and to make sure that the places that they're passionate about is being served within Jonesboro, and our churches throughout, and the things that they do for our community and the outreach programs that go on. But all of these are entities that they should be outside entities, and they're doing a great job. But there's a lot of areas that we need to improve on, and it just drives me crazy that the overall representation is just a very few. And I'll make a post about sidewalks or whatever, and it's the same people always jumping down my throat saying they use the sidewalks every day. Okay, I'm glad that a very small percentage uses the sidewalks every day. And we've done episodes where we talk about who we are as a city, and we're a blue-collar working city. Majority of us are out there just whatever it takes in order to make a living, and they're not being represented. We're talking about what those types of people like to do and how they like to spend their downtime and so forth. And these are statistics. Like, these are legitimate statistics that we've talked about. And yet, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing for them? They're listening. Trust me. Some of the things that they do, some of the videos they put out is because of things like NEA Report and The Pulse and Patty Lack and her 280 page and so forth. And it's getting better. And they do things and say things. I believe this connectivity video is a direct result of those three things and more. They want to put something out and say, wait a minute, look at what we're doing. But the truth of the matter is that we're not doing much. We're not doing much. We put so much money into the general funds, and that the way we can pull it out and use it for so much. We've got an argument and a fight about this bond situation going on right now and what to do with it, and do we overpay for land, and blah, 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 blah. There's just so much going on, and yet it's tough to see the bridges. It's tough to see where people are trying to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. And some are doing it. Some are absolutely doing it. Garrett Barnes and myself politically probably don't see eye to eye on most of anything, but him and I can sit down and have a legitimate conversation and talk about the needs of the people and be in half common ground on lots of those things, and walk away from the table in a manner that, hey, we both felt like we were heard and understood. And a lot of times I've heard Garrett say that he'll put forth the effort to hopefully make sure that our voices are heard. I don't have to agree with him politically all the time, but if he's working for the people, that's what we want. There's other JPs that do the same thing, that have a tendency to, just a natural tendency to make sure that you and I are being heard. Same with city council, but a lot of times, the majority of the time, it's just whatever those that are leading, they push and they get done whatever it is that they want to get done. So how do we build the bridge? What we're going to start doing is, number one, we're going to interview a lot of people. So I know I keep talking about that, and it's going to happen, I promise. I don't know, the interview will be next week, but I don't know if it'll make it on the air until the following week. But we're going to start with some great interviews here real soon, and get some of the other leaders of the city and some of the people that have been here for a long time and get their views too. And when we do, that's going to be real impactful. And so that's coming. And I think we're going to build some bridges there. And I think we're going to make sure that you and I even get our voices heard a little bit more. We're also going to start painting pictures of what can be within Jonesboro. If we do that, then maybe the leaders will look and see and say, hey, let's take a look at what NEA Report's doing and what Patty Lack's been talking about on her 280 page for a long time. She's got a pretty good chunk of followers, and their voices are made up of several different people, a lot of people that have been here for a long time, and they need to go read those. They need to go read and see what's going on. We keep growing. Our numbers keep getting bigger and bigger each and every week, and I think we make a difference. And so what we're going to do is try to start painting pictures of what could be, and maybe even give it some roadmaps, and maybe some of these city councilmen and women and maybe some of the people within the county and stuff start listening and looking at it and bringing it to the table. So we're going to really work really hard on that over the next several months and try to paint these pictures. And we're also, as we do some traveling, and we're going to take pictures and we're going to post those as well, and really talk about the things that can really separate us as a city from kind of the direction we're going into a direction we should be going. I talk about it a lot, that we can't just be going in this one direction and attracting certain people that don't contribute to, if they're moving into our town, they need to be contributing. So we need to make sure that we're attracting those people that want to contribute to society and not be a drain on it. A lot of the business people are constantly talking about that. How do we attract people? And it's an argument. The argument is we need higher paying jobs, or we need this, or we need more to do. And again, it's like, hey, I read that if you build bike paths, again, we can talk about the bike paths all we want to, but they haven't changed anything so far. And again, do we need sidewalks and things like that? Yes. Do we need healthy avenues and outlets? Yes. But we also need all the other things too. And we need to quit talking like we are going to be some Chinese city where everybody's going to be walking one day. It's just not going to happen. We're not those people. Jonesboro is not made up of a bunch of those people. The majority of the people that are walking right now don't want to be walking. They're trying to save up and afford a car so they don't have to walk anymore. There is a good chunk of people, but a very small percentage, but they ride bikes and they walk and they use the things that are happening. And I think that's great, because we just spent a bunch of money on them. They need to be used, but not at a level that we're moving towards. It is not the level of money spent on what's been going on within the city does not compute. There's no percentage of it that says it's representing the majority of the people of Jonesboro. There's no calculation that you can make. And if you can, city, and I know you're listening, but if you can, put that out there. Challenge you to give us the numbers and the percentages and cross-reference that with all of Jonesboro and tell us where that the majority of Jonesboro people are being represented. It's just not happening. And so we've got to change these things. I talk about the city council and it being easier. I hate to visit it again, but we had a city councilman come down from off of his podium after comments and got in the face of a lady, and I don't know, and nothing happened about it. There's nothing happened about it. He apologized to her, I think, in a following meeting or whatever, but no public apology, nothing done from the mayor's office. He didn't address it. And that's just wrong. If you just look at some of these little things, we're just moving in a direction that I don't feel like is the right direction for everybody. And listen, the majority of the city council really is trying. I don't think that they're doing it in a manner that isn't. I feel like they're doing what they feel like is best. Okay, but for the most part, it's things are brought in there and they say yes or no. And if the majority are saying yes, it's really difficult to say no. It's really difficult to be the only one. And there's no real conversations a lot of times. And then you ask questions, but there's no debating. It happens sometimes, but it happened on where the E911 centers are coming. The Justice building has been shut down, and I haven't heard any updates on how bad it is because they were supposed to rush and get some engineers in there to take a look and let us know exactly how bad it is. And I don't know if that's happened, but there's some great debate going on about that. And correctly so, we did not move forward on land purchase. That's how it's supposed to work. So what happened there is what it's supposed to look like and work. And I don't know if that's happening on everything. I feel like it, again, I think that there's a lot of rubber stamping going on. But the city brings almost the 100% agenda to the floor, and you vote on it or don't. And I feel we need to be bringing things to the floor. I think we need to be talking about the things that need to be done. And so we're going to do that. We're going to talk a lot more about that. So, city, if you're listening, I want to know what roads we're working on right now. And I don't mean the pothole crew. What roads are we fixing? What roads are we paving right now? Because I drive around this town every day and I don't see one road. I haven't seen one road the entire year, with the exception of what DOT did that the county did. I haven't seen any other road being worked on. Not one. And let me finish by talking about the audit real quick. When I say that, it's the audit that was done on City Stars. So it was brought up, and this all started with the soccer community. We have an organization called Revolution that is a club soccer program. And so if kids are pretty good and they want to get better and they want to compete at a higher level and maybe be a catalyst into high school and so forth and so on, they join Revolution. And a lot of times they travel and they compete at a higher level than just everybody coming to City Stars and doing soccer. There was some things that they felt like wasn't on the up and up. And so I think the whole board just quit. And when I say isn't on the up and up, the manner of how money is being spent and documented and ran, it's really vague. It's very vague. And that brings up a ton of questions. And they resigned over field work and things like that. And so there was an audit to be done, and Danny Kapalis, which is over our Parks and Rec, he's also over this 501c3 that runs basically the soccer program, the City Stars, and gives a ton of money to Revolution. And that money majority of it comes from the city. I don't even know what the percentage is, but 95% of it comes from the city. And it's a huge chunk because it takes a lot. Don't get me wrong, it takes a lot. And so when the audit's done, every question that was asked, there is no evidence of what they are saying to be true. That's not saying it's not true. It's just there is no evidence of it. So when city council men asked questions, hey, how do we pay those that are working on the weekends? And if they're city employees, are they getting paid extra? And how does that work? And there was like, oh no, they're not. But there's no evidence of that. There's no receipt checks, receipts, anything that we can see that there's evidence that people that work within the city aren't getting paid by cash or whatever extra. And if that's the case, making sure it doesn't overlap and all of that stuff. There's none of that. There's no checks and balance there. The other thing is who's counting the money. Oh, they told us how it was being counted, but there is nothing that was shown that says that's the way that it happens. They just said it. It wasn't in the audit. There was no pages attached or any of that stuff that said any of that. And then they talked about the budget that went on, and the budget raised, and Revolution was in the negative, and the reason why they were in the negative, and things like that, which they got that wrong too. And I'll tell you how they got it wrong, and maybe they're listening, but maybe city councils are listening, and so they can go back and ask the questions. But they talked about how they hired an organizer of some sort within the Revolution that they didn't have the year prior, and that's why it got negative or whatever. But what they didn't know is that I think the year prior to it, that a city employee was in that position. So a city employee that was in that position didn't get paid, and then then that city employee left, and then they hired somebody to take that place. But before that city employee was doing it, they had somebody doing that, and they were getting paid. And so that wasn't even in, I don't know if that made a whole lot of sense, but regardless, that wasn't even represented correctly. And the auditor didn't know that. Clearly, when she gave her information, she didn't know that that's what was happening. That it just, and I made a statement, and I feel a little bit bad for it. I said it was a baby audit, and that has nothing to do with the auditing group or the accounting firm. It has zero to do with them. When I said baby audit, it meant like the information that we were really looking for wasn't there. And all of the questions asked, there was no way to answer those. They answered them like they stood up and said, this is what we do and how we do it. Okay, where is the evidence? Isn't that what the audit was supposed to do? Is to clear up any questions that there may be about how it's being ran, how the money's being spent, where the money's coming from, who all's involved. That's what the audit was for. And I can guarantee you, we didn't get any of that. We didn't get any of those answers. And I had a conversation, and I said, this is the way that we lose confidence in those that are running our government, is that there is no transparency. If there's people that are signing off on the counting, and that the counting is being done with 2 and 3 different people, and the deposits are being made, by 2 people, we should see that. We should know that, especially because it is yours and my money. And we get these comments by some people, and it's a 501c3, and they don't have to do all of that. So, no, it's a city employee in a city 501c3 made up of a bunch of city employees, where they get the majority, almost 100% of all of their money from the city, and everybody that is involved, kid-wise and parent-wise, think that this is a city-ran organization. I can guarantee you the majority of the people that join City Stars believes that this is a city situation. And to case in point is, if they have a problem with it, they call the city. The city gets the calls, and then the city navigates how that's taken care of and who that goes to. And then city employees take calls during the day about City Stars, and they're on the clock. And it just runs there's just so much that runs so deep and so like crazy, that this is, who in the world thought that this was a good idea? I don't even know. And how we still think it's anywhere a good idea. And I don't think that the majority of the city council think that this is a good idea, but they're not willing to just say, put the hammer down and do something different. Just not. And here's the craziest thing. Let's say they put the hammer down and said, we're not going to do it this way anymore. What does that even look like? So if you don't think that this is being ran wrong, let me ask you this. If we said, so 2 things would happen, right? One, we either take it in as a city thing, get rid of the 501c3, and it's ran within the city, okay? Which I believe, if everybody believes, that's what's happening anyway. So if we did that, number one, it would fall under the checks and balances of the city, and things would be ran a whole lot different, hopefully. And hopefully it would be managed in a manner that is more transparent. That's the one option. The other option is that we get a whole new board that's not made up of the city and it's ran by these people. Well, what does that look like? Does that mean that the city's still going to be giving them hundreds, thousands of dollars? Are they going to demand, if the city's doing that, are they going to demand that they see an audit regularly? You can bet your bottom dollar that's the case. They're going to demand that they know where that money's coming from that is given to them by the city. There's some checks and balances, but they haven't done an audit in 20 years. 20 years they haven't done an audit until this one. And it's in the bylaws. Like, they're supposed to give one regularly. And so it just makes you scratch your head. Like, it wouldn't be ran this way if city people weren't involved. The city wouldn't allow them not to be held accountable for the funds and the money that's coming in and that's being given to them of yours or my money. And then if it goes to the city, it wouldn't be run the way that it's being run right now, because they have to do unbelievable checks and balances to make sure that they're doing nothing nefarious or illegal or whatever. And so that's where the crossroads are. Like, no other, you and I wouldn't be able to get money from the city at this level without being held accountable that the money's going and it's being ran and it's successful and we're on the up. And we're not regularly bringing them financials. And two, if it's run within the city, it's ran completely different to make sure that there's checks and balances and safety issues and safety precautions and all of this stuff. And so we don't need to discuss this anymore, other than it needs to be fixed. We need to know how the money was counted, where it was coming from. I keep saying this and people just scratch their heads. I'm not saying it, but the amount of money that is being said that is from the gate and the concessions isn't even close. Do your own math. Do your own math. If 1,000 parents are coming every week to watch their kids, which is way more, it's way more than 1,000, but if 1,000 parents come to watch their kids play 8 games or 8 weeks, that's $48-something thousand. And that's incredibly conservative. And if I'm not mistaken, the line that was gates and whatever is like 17,000. So just do the math. Somebody check it at the city. Somebody ask the really tough questions and then demand that we see their excuses. Don't just take their excuses that they say over the microphone. We want proof. We demand proof. We should have the proof. Period. We should have the proof. So, guys, that's it for today. I really hope that we don't keep talking about the same issues all the time and they start doing things a little bit different. But I don't know. We'll see. And don't hold your breath. But we are making a difference. They are doing things and saying things, and things are moving. Things are definitely moving in the right direction. It may be slow, but your voices are starting to be heard. And the more that you share this video and the more that you go to the 280 page and NEA reports, and there's lots of ways that we can contribute, but we boost those 3 organizations more and more, and we start to make a difference, and then you are heard. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support, and hang in there. This is a great city. We have so many great people. This is my home, and we're going to make a difference, and we're not going to allow it to just be forgotten. We're going to make sure that you are all represented. So appreciate you guys. Have a great week. We will see you next week, and remember to like and share, and we'll talk to you soon.